Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Henny, and I like to talk about different topics relating to life and unpack them in a way to help you be a little bit more self-compassionate in the way you go through life. Today, I wanted to talk about taking things a little bit too personally. And I've definitely felt this before. I've felt that I take others' opinions a little too close to heart. And I've learned some things along the way, and I wanted to share those with you. I think I used to be the kind of person that didn't take criticism very well. And if I did take them well, I definitely took them really seriously. And I took them really close to heart. And I definitely took things personally. And I realized while going through life that taking things personally actually takes the ownership of those emotions away from that person, and I absorb them to myself. So what I mean by that is if someone has a problem, if they have a concern or anything like that, I would take it upon myself to try to fix it. I wanted to be the fix-it person. And it's funny because I chose a career that literally is like that. And I think that had a big reason on why I chose to be a therapist is I wanted to be the person that people were able to come to and rely on. But I would do that in my everyday life with my partners, relationships, friends, everything. And if I wasn't able to come up with a solution, I would take that very personally. This relates a lot with things I've talked about in past episodes. But for me, learning how to not take things so personally actually had a lot more to do with giving others the space to feel rather than protecting myself from harm. I don't think in my life I've had a lot of big criticizers, and if they did, I did a pretty good job on kind of letting it roll off my shoulder. But when close friends had problems or issues, or maybe there was a disagreement of some kind, I was so worried about fixing the problem that I would lose sight on the fact that this caused pain or some sort of emotion that is beyond just myself. And if a friend or another person were to treat me in a way that I didn't agree with necessarily, I would wonder what is wrong with me? What's going on with me? What could I have done better? And a lot of this came from romantic relationships, but it also came from friendships, and it came from mentorships and all sorts of relationships throughout my life. And even if I was being mistreated, I wouldn't be able to see it as mistreatment. I would just take it on myself and say, oh, I must have deserved that, or I must have done something to create this. And even when it was causing me great harm, I would have these thoughts. And something that I really had to actively work on through therapy and a lot of self-reflection is that the way people treat me could be because of my own actions, of course, also has a lot to do with them. And I want to tread very lightly in this topic because I don't want people to hear this and think, oh, she thinks she has no problems and she's never in the wrong. That's definitely not the case. I'm also thinking about times where I've been in the wrong. I usually find that the more defensive I get with any kind of confrontation, the more it's because I'm taking things very personally and not taking things for face value. So for me, not taking things so personally actually meant I had to look at things more rationally and look at them from outside of the scope of my own lens and see where that other person is coming from. When it came to matters of relationships, romantic and otherwise, I always put myself at fault. And that did more harm than good in a lot of cases because it not only undervalued myself and my own emotions, it devalued their emotions and their perspective as well because I was so worried about what I could have done differently to avoid a potential conflict or a disagreement of some kind or anything like that. If you don't want to stay until the end, my whole point and the thing I want you to take away from this is that in order to take things less personally, we have to first look at people's perspectives and respect their lens. And I think this can apply to all sorts of different things, not only romantic relationships and friendships and family relationships and things like that, but even in conversations with people who have different values or different beliefs as us. I think it's so important to remember that even if they don't share our own beliefs and values and lens, their opinions are still valid. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to be in support of them or anything, but they feel that way for a reason. And having curiosity on trying to find out where that reason comes from and trying to have a more open, accepting stance rather than a how could they think that way stance, I think would just make so many conversations so much more productive and so much more healing. And I realize that I'm talking very vaguely here, and maybe I will dive into this topic a little bit more specifically in terms of how this looks like in a family dynamic or friendship dynamic or a romantic relationship, or even between a conversation of two opposing political parties, anything like that. But I just think that the overarching idea that we all have different lenses for a reason, because we all come from a different place of experience, will help us not take opposing thoughts, opinions, and perspectives so personally and to heart. If someone is attacking you, if someone is attacking you as a person, then obviously I think it's natural and totally understandable to say that you take things personally because they're attacking you as a person. But when we take a step back and examine what's going on in that interaction of what are they attacking or what are they pinpointing, and how much of that actually has to do with me and my actions, and how much of that has to do with their perspective. And it's really important to play that balancing act of the two, because you may have some things in your blind spot that you're unaware of that other people may point out to you. You may have certain tendencies of how you communicate that's hurtful, or you may have certain habits that are destructive to yourself, or whatever that might be. And taking those at face value is really important. And I think that if we start taking things at face value rather than taking them as a personal attack on who we are as a person and who our individual characteristics and everything intertwined is as a whole, I think it can get easier to respectfully hear them out and not so much defensively try to deflect on the attack that you may be feeling. And like I said, this can be applied in all sorts of different ways. But for example, in romantic partnerships, when another person is coming to you with a problem, an issue, a shortcoming, a oversight, anything like that, I think our initial instinct is to think, what did I do wrong? What did I mess up? Or where did I fall short in this situation? And something that my current partner and I are really, really great at, and I think that's one of the reasons why we work so well, is he's able to remove himself from the situation and look at the situation very rationally. He's able to sift out different subtopics out of a whole topic, whereas I look at things very much as a whole picture. And it really works well for us because I've learned and I've gained skills within our relationships to take a step back and look at things individually, because I'm able to do that in terms of my work and in terms of outside of my romantic relationship. But within a romantic relationship, because of my own past history and my own lens and my own values and beliefs, when it comes to disagreements, I definitely have the tendency to kind of take things really personally. I think when you've been in situations in the past where you feel like you've had to take on a lot of that emotional burden, it's easy to take it all on. And when the other person comes to you with something, and it doesn't even have to do with the relationship, it's something completely different, it's hard for you to make that separation. It was for me anyway. It was really hard for me to distinguish between an issue that my partner was having versus an issue that we were having. I would like automatically make it about us. And it was because I was trying to take it away from him. I was trying to fix, quote unquote, the problem. And I think this happens in friendships as well, where you might have a disagreement and some people might have the tendency to take it all on, to take the responsibility of the whole situation onto themselves, because then you can fix it. I now have the power and control to fix this situation and make everything okay again, rather than seeing what it is and seeing and giving that other person some responsibility too, and being like, and it's not about blame. It's about, oh, you have this perspective. Okay, I have this perspective. There's a disconnect here. Where can we find that connect? And that's where I fell short a lot of the time in my early 20s and in my first relationships. I wouldn't try to find the disconnect and find an opportunity for connection, I would just take it all on and take on the onus and the ownership of everyone's flaws and mistakes and issues and problems and everything, and try to absorb it all so that I can fix it within me. And that made me not see harm for what it was. I didn't see harmful behaviors or abusive patterns or anything like that. I didn't see manipulation. And it made me blind to those things because I was just so focused on making things better. But I was blinding myself to what people were showing me, as well as negating what they were feeling. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy to live that way. It's not healthy to have those types of overarching responsibilities on everyone around you. It just makes you feel more lonely. It makes you feel more misunderstood. And it kind of just separates you from everything and isolates you from actually forming true connections and relationships. And part of it is a protecting yourself thing. It is a vulnerable thing to open up. It is a vulnerable thing to let ourselves be known. And it's vulnerable to let others in. And I think a lot of taking things too personally has a lot to do with not letting people in as well, and keeping people out and not allowing myself to truly know someone else. I can confidently say that if you made an active effort to take things less personally, by understanding that everyone has their own perspective and having empathy and curiosity towards that, it will not only make your shoulders lighter, but I think it will facilitate a much deeper connection with everyone around you. Because there's two parts to it. There is one of letting go of some of that responsibility yourself and giving that to the other person. And two, it's acknowledging that that other person has the capacity to take that on and trusting that they do. And that is a huge, huge part for me, is that trust aspect. Because when you give that responsibility away a little bit to the other person, you're trusting that they will value your connection and they will put the effort in to fix the problem or to find an understanding or to come to a common middle ground, or that they'll put effort into compromise. When you take it away from them and you put it all on yourself, whether that's by you giving up your stance and go, yeah, you're right, you're right, we'll do it your way. Or, yep, my opinion is kind of just this, so it's fine. And that kind of thing, you don't have to trust that other person because you're doing it yourself. You're giving your stance up. You're giving up your lens. You're giving up your perspective, because that can feel easier than giving trust to another person that they will come and meet you in the middle. But when you do decide to trust in others, that they will show you the same empathy and show you the same compassion and curiosity that you show them, and are prepared that you may be disappointed, but you'll be okay, and that you tried to open up your heart, your mind, and the conversation to allow for more connection, it is worth it in the end. Because when that person does come to you with the compassion, the same curiosity as you do, it really does create this beautiful space that you have more understanding of each other, and you can agree to disagree, but not in the I give up, let's just agree to disagree kind of way, but in the way where, yeah, we disagree, but that's okay. Differing opinions is what really makes the world go round. If we all agreed on everything all the time, there would be no innovation, there would be no growth, there would be no specialness of actually being connected with someone in a different way. It would just all be everyone being kind of apathetic and shrugging and everyone agreeing with each other. Disagreements are what makes people think and reflect and, like I said, grow. And I think that once we have that space for people and be vulnerable to have that trust, that it will come back and be reciprocated. And the more we practice that on a daily basis in every single area of our life, the more I think things will just feel more connected. And like I said in my social connection video, connection is one of the things that makes humanity thrive. Human connection is literally needed. It is a requirement for our life. And I think that in the age of polarizing views and social media and the attempt for people in positions of power to try to utilize and use this polarizing climate and use it against each other. We need this now more than ever, I think, not only in our individual lives, but just as a society as a whole. I think it's so important for us to try to practice every day and try to find connection in each other, even with the people that disagree with us. But yeah, I think that this topic is definitely not one that's going to go away anytime soon. I definitely see myself talking about this maybe more in detail in the future. If you'd like to hear anything specific or have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment or send me a message. I absolutely love hearing from you all, and I would love to hear your opinion. If you agree, if you disagree, if you have something from your own experience that can connect with this, I would love to hear it. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And if you've stayed until the end, I appreciate you so much. If you are joining me during the day, I hope you have a wonderful day. If you're joining me in the evening, I hope you have a restful night of sleep, and I'll catch you next time.